ละเชนครับเดี๋ยวเราใช่ครับผม อ๋อครับใช่ Okay so sound good okay okay good sound checks it's very good okay um, you need to put your headset on okay so you have to put your headset on yeah okay so well good evening and welcome to this sessions. I'm here with Tim Chainan. I'm the chief of party. Can you hear me? No? Can you hear me? Good. Okay. Sound check. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Oh, good evening. I'm with Tian Chainan. I'm your host and moderator today. So thank you very much for joining us in these evening sessions. And for these sessions, I think we will be discussing about this very important topic, which is how we can do energy transition in Greater Mekong and how we can unlock climate finance and collective efforts. I think this is the topic that really center on COP29. We have been discussing, I think, starting from the first day on how we can unlock climate finance so that we will be able to support energy transitions. And I think in this session, we will be talking about some of the presentations of the research that have been conducted in this field, and also to be able to hear from expert panelists that will be able to share from different perspectives. And hopefully at the end, we would be able to understand about this topic more and have some recommendation on moving forward together. And with that, I would like to invite the representative from USAID to give the opening remark. May I invite Kun Rachen Salangam, Program Management Specialist of the USAID Regional Development Mission for Asia. Please, Rachen. Here, have microphone, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Very good. Um, Good evening. Good evening. Again, Kun Riwit, thank you very much for the introduction. I thought I would have a podium and stand up there and give the remarks, but it's good to be cozy as we are today. So my name is Rashain Salangam. I'm from USAID, Regional Development Mission for Asia, based in Bangkok. And we've been working on a program called Mekong for the Future, which focuses on the CSOs, civil society organization, and we'll be touching on that a little bit. But what we want to really start to look together tonight on this energy transition in Greater Mekong, unlocking climate finance and collective efforts, is to both looking at the energy transition front. How can we move the needle on introducing more regional renewable energy into the energy mix, but at the same time we want it to be not only sustainable but inclusive as well. So again, let me just provide some remarks before we get into the sessions. We're here to address one of the most pressing issue of our time, the need for a just and inclusive energy transition that balance the environmental conservation with human development in the Greater Mekong. So before moving forward, of course, I would like to give my heartfelt thanks to the organization that made this possible, WWF, in partnership with USAID, and also our civil society partners, and as well as the financial institutions that we have been working with. The Greater Mekong region is at a critical crossroad in its energy transition journey. This region has long relied on fossil fuels, hydropower, as we know, and the transition towards sustainable energy is both urgent and complex. The World Bank projects that investments in developing countries needs to rise significantly between 1 to 2 trillion annually by 2030 to meet global energy and climate targets. In the Mekong, the path to net zero emission requires mobilizing an estimated 630 billion by 2050. It's a substantial figure, but it reflects the scale of commitment needed to protect biodiversity, support resilient communities, and address the transboundary impacts of climate change. USAID, through Mekong for the Future program in partnership with WWF, is deeply committed to support sustainable environment governance across the region. This commitment arises from a shared understanding of the inclusive, transparent governance systems, that they are critical to managing natural resources effectively, particularly in the region facing urgent challenges such as deforestation, water degradation, and pressures from external development. The goal of Mekong for the Future, as I mentioned earlier, is to work with the CSOs and it connect to today's events as we explore how collaborative action can lead to meaningful, lasting change. Mekong for the Future, or the MFF, focus on key themes, including climate change adaptation, renewable energy, and enabling civic space, which aligns with the region priorities and shared mission to today's event. So let me invite you all to participate actively in our discussion. We are a small group, but I think we're going to have a meaningful and important discussion, and have opportunity to share insights and foster partnerships, and we can identify impactful solutions together. And with that, I would like to let Kunverbit move on to other sections of the event. Thank you.
For the wonderful remarks, and thank you. And just like to also mention this again, that for those of us who are here and those who are watching this live streamings, and those who will also be watching this after this event, that will be recorded and shown in the WWF YouTube channel as well. So with that, please. So with that opening remark, I think we saw the importance of the issues, and I'd like to go quickly to the research that we conducted with the funding from USAID, also under the Mekong US partnership. So this is the research that we conducted in the Greater Mekong region. And this research is actually quite unique compared to other research that have been conducted in this field, because we have been working together with the governments, agencies, with the private sectors, and especially the civil society organizations, which is something that had not been fully done before by engaging civil society. And this is where we came up with the research. You can also, find the full report at the WWF Greater Mekong website, and the research paper is done also in partnership with IES, which is the Intelligent Energy System, which is quite well-known agencies that have been doing consultancy services for the governments in the regions. So the research paper is titled "Towards a Green and Inclusive Power Sector in the Greater Mekong Sub-Regions." In this, we focus on the regional grid interconnection for low cost, low carbon, and low conflict energy. So if we look at the emphasis on this paper, which is also low cost, low carbon, and low conflict. And that is where I think civil society came in, because you probably know that in a lot of development projects, there have been some conflict between the private sector, the government, and the civil society in terms of how the impact had been evaluated. And this is why we came up with this, some of the findings that we'd like to show you all today. So the first one is that if we look at the projections of the energy demand in the Greater Mekong sub-regions, we could see that from 2021 to 2050, the projections of the energy demand will triple between 2021 and 2050. And that would mean that the energy demand will be driven from about 500 terawatt to about over 1,600 terawatt. And if you can see that, I mean, it's quite small, but the red is shown for Vietnam. So you can see that the energy demand, if we do the projections to 2050, there will be a lot of demand increase in Vietnam. There will be some increase also in Thailand and some more in Myanmar. But those are not really significant. But we can see that from this projection, there will be a lot of projects that are going to happen in Vietnam in the coming decades. And if we look at this chart, the first one on the left is that the base, which means that business as usual. So if we continue the way we have been doing, using coal, gas, diesel, hydropower, biomass, some solar and some wind. So we could see that the graph on the left-hand side will show that there will be some increase in the coal-fired power plant. There will be more increase in the gas, some continuation of the hydropower dam, and some significant increase in terms of solar and wind. But if we look at the chart on the figure on the right-hand side, you can also see that if we use the assumption that if we're going to be reducing coal and gas to be zero by 2050, which is something that many countries have already set the goals in the nationally determined commitment, NDC. So if we look at that possibility, then coal and gas will be zero by the year 2050. And if we can maintain the hydropower dam to be about 30%, so we see that trend will continue to maintain. But we will see a lot of increase in solar and wind. And if we will be doing that by also connecting all the grids in the region together, and that will increase the energy efficiencies. So you can see that there will be a big graph that show a lot of energy efficiency savings that we'll be able to gain by connecting the grid. Connecting the grid is quite simple. You have power plant anywhere, you can connect the power to anywhere that close to that source. And if we can do so, we can increase a lot of energy efficiency by not losing it to the line. So if we can do so, we will be able to see that this is possible technically by the year 2050. And if we look at the cost, because everybody is concerned about cost, the cost of doing this renewable energy and doing regional interconnections grid, the cost by the year 2050 will require quite a lot of investment. So which means that if we look at the investment in the renewable energies until the year 2050, if we accumulate all of them, it will be about 630 billions in the regions by the year 2050. But this means that out of that 630 billions, about 244 billions will be from connecting the grid. So those will be the investment that we need. But if we look at the cost of the investment and the cost of using the fuels, the fossil fuels, it will actually be quite similar, which means that we would be able to do some saving from, you're not hearing? Can you hear me okay? Okay, good. The cost of doing regional interconnected grid could be subsidized or equal to the cost of the fuels. So which means that we can switch from the same amount of money that going to the fossil fuels to the renewable and interconnected grid. So if we will be able to do so, we could see that from this chart, if we continue as it is, the annual emissions will continue to rise and as it is. But if we would be able to do this interconnected grid with the renewable energies, we could see the projections from the model that in the year 2050, we could actually reach zero. So we have been asking a lot about how can we actually achieve net zero. We show from the model, from the scientific research, it's possible, and there's a way to do it. And if we want to do it together, this is the way that we propose. So, I mean, this is where we have the research, and you can see the whole full report on our website, WWF Greater Mekong. And then maybe I would invite my colleagues to come up next to share the second part of the presentation. Hang Dao, please. Hang Dao is from the WWF Myanmar, please.
Thank you very much, everyone. And today I want to focus on this Kunvirawit has been discussed about the possibility of near zero emissions from the transitioning to renewable energies. And I want to talk about what would be like the point from the aspects from Myanmar and also as the aspects of Asian countries and also part of Mekong region. So that currently in Myanmar, there are still a lot of challenges in terms of power shortage and supply is getting lower, but demand is getting higher. But what I would like to highlight is that what would be like the rules of countries like Myanmar. So at the moment, in terms of emissions, it's still the lowest in terms of greenhouse gas emissions in the region. But and power sector is like only contribute to about 6%. So that is very low because we really rely on like hydro power for around 47%, and there's gas and LNG and coal, 51%. And now the solar contributions in utility scale and commercial industry is increasing now. And for us as the WM Myanmar, what we focus is that initially we are really supporting the national energy planning, that they need to really focus on their energy policy to aim of 100% renewable, whether it is possibility as a country. So as Kun Virawit mentioned, there's a possibility, but for us is that we need to look at all possible power generation, and here that we also do like a base scenario and the increased renewable energy and advanced renewable energy scenario. So if we look at the current base, we really have this fossil fuel gas and wind and hydro. But for the advanced case that we don't, as conservation organization, we don't emphasize much on new dams to be built because of this environmental impact. And for us is that it's good to be looking at from what would be the other renewable energy sources that we can really come up with. And I want to show that in Myanmar we have the resources for solar and wind. And in terms of the commitments, the climate targets in the NDC, that by 2030 we aim for like 200 megawatt contribution from solar and wind. And for me myself, before working for WWF, I have been working on wind energy for conducting feasibility study, and there is a possibility in depth, in fact, but it's more of the challenge is more of the policy that support that international investment. And another key thing is to like the tariff structure. And for us is that Myanmar is that we are like following the other countries and a bit slow in terms of development. But for what we can do is that we can learn from like the neighboring countries, Thailand and Vietnam, and that's where we also add a value to the Mekong region. And as also that the Kunvirawit mentions, the interconnection study really helps us that what would be Myanmar to be able to be part of this Mekong region for the Mekong region grid or the Asian power grid. So there's a possibility in terms of interconnections and contributions. And to conclude that what will be the aspects of Myanmar that I would say is that there's high renewable energy, but although it is emerging markets, but the demand is there and it is developing. And also as it's also a strategic location for like cross-border trading and power grid in the future. And One thing I would like to highlight is that if we look from the angle of energy security, and as Asian and Mekong region, we also need to look at for the long-term 2030, 2050 targets. That if we really want to go for a near zero or net zero emission targets, we really need to focus on like our resources. For example, the mineral resources for uh, producing more solar panels or batteries or wind. So in Myanmar, we have like these resources, mineral resources. That's where we can contribute back, and the other countries collaborated with other countries in research and development and potentially manufacturing capacity in like 2030 or 2040. I think that would be that I would like to recommend. And amidst of these challenges, in Myanmar, we realized that even in 2023, the solar imports goes for like 57 million, and it is really a totally private sector development, because there's power state, there's no enough power from the grid, so people are looking for like alternative solutions, and it's definitely renewables, especially solar energy that can come in quickly to address the demand. So that's what I would like to highlight. And in terms of development, utility scale development is slow, but the commercial industry, rooftop solar is really like booming. That the private sectors cannot rely on diesel generators for long. The price is fluctuating, and if they have this solar system, they can really keep maintaining their business operating. And also that the key change is that local banks are also interested in these solar financings, green financing. That's also good initiatives that I would say. So to cut in short, that in Greater Mekong, it's always need to be collaboratively working on our vision towards the net zero emissions. Thank you.
So may I invite my colleagues from Vietnam, WWF Vietnam, Ms. Jung, to also to continue to share about the perspective from the WWF Vietnam. Please, Ms. Jung, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, okay, great. Welcome to Vietnam. So can you open my presentation? Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so Vietnam, I think among the five countries in the five countries in Greater Mekong, we are also involved in the research for Greater Mekong on the energy transition together. We also have some also in-depth research on energy I think we call it how can I say renewable energy, 100% renewable energy, and with the multi-partnerships, multi-actor partnerships to involve I think in this research. So, okay, what WF Vietnam doing on the energy? Oh, what is the flow? So I think here's the commitment of the government. So the government of Vietnam, they commit in different policies. So they do also join the Sustainable Development Agenda 2030, SDG, as you know. So also we do have also the National Action Plan for implementation of the 2030 agenda. So we also have a roadmap to implement SDG. So another policy, we have a Paris Agreement. We also join that, and also we also work on the implementation plan for Paris Agreement, and also the National Climate Change Adaptation Plan. And another commitment from Vietnam, we already commit at COP26, that is a net zero part for Vietnam by 2015, and I think no more coal after 2030. And then also we try the different solution and such the commitment of the COP26. Another important, I think, policy, the partnership, to the commitment of the government and the partnership is a JEPI, is a Just Energy Transition Partnership. And also we do have a different, I think, guideline and also the plan to implement JEPI in Vietnam. What is the phone? Okay, so what is, I'm sorry, we use the WF phone, but it doesn't work here. So we have, I think, current very important policy issued by the government. So the first one is the National Power Development Aid, so we call it the PDP aid. And in which one the government of Vietnam, I think, have a vision to achieve, I think, 52% by 2030, and around 60 for 68, 76 by 2050, and of course reduce the fossil fuel by the timeline. And also they mentioned about how can strengthen the power transmission grid in Vietnam, and also promote for the new technology like a battery to storage and also green hydrogen. And another, they also mentioned in the power development plan is the investment cost to achieve the targets, I think, during different periods from 137, I think, billion, I think, and also the average by about 60 billion per year to about nearly the 400 for the next period from the 30 to 50. And then we have the current, just the issue about, I think, the degree 18. I think that's the issue in July. I remember July or August. They call it a direct power purchase agreement, that's a DPPA. So this one can support the direct purchasement from the renewable energy. It's okay? 1 minute? Okay, sorry. Okay, we have only 1 minute more. Okay, so different policy for this one. And I think we do have, I don't want to talk about the advantage, but the barriers. I think the barrier is we still have a pending the policy on renewable energy, especially on the revise on the electricity law and also the offshore wind. And also limited capacity on transmission, the grid. Uh, Here's some comparison with WF scenario and the PDP8, the Power Development Plan. So we can see the difference of the, I think, the solar, also some about the uh, biomass and also the storage capacity from the government. And also you can see we don't have a coal in our vision, but also we have only few for on the LNG in the vision. Okay, so what we do here? So we do also at the national level, we do on the technical support, we also do the engagement with the private sector. And we also support on the greenhouse gas emission reduction plan for the sector, for different sector, and also we do on the communication promotion. So that is our, so it's one example. We work with the NFBCs and WRI to promote the energy transition. We call this climate solution partnership. So in this program, we do different different activity. We support the company on auditing and also greenhouse gas inventory. We also support to build the bankable project in the country. We also provide technical support directly to the company, and also support the subnational on the reduction emission roadmap. And also we do the build capacity and sharing from different, I think, for different stakeholders. So here's some, I think, product for corporate engagement. We work with different partners. And also here's our some campaign on behavior change that we call is the Earth Hour event. And another, I think another campaign, another program we call the One Planet City Challenge program is how we can promote the subnational in the energy transition pathway. So I need to give back to Veravid. He's a timekeeper. So sorry, have to be quick, but we will share you this presentation if needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's wonderful. So I think you have been hearing a lot about the research and also the perspective from WWF in the regions. And next, I would like also to invite our esteemed panelists who will be able to share with us the diverse view from different stakeholders in the region, so that we will be able to understand and try to tackle this subject from different perspectives. So may I invite all the panelists on the stage, please. Please. So, Lachen, Kelvin, Kitty, Uti. That's great. You're sitting according to the photo, so that's really nice. So, We'll first do the introductions of our esteemed panelists that we have this evening. I mean, there's only one microphone, so I have to kindly ask you to pass the microphone to those who speak. So I'd like to start by introducing each of the panelists so then you can get to know them a little bit better. The first person who is nearly on my left is Rachen Falangam. He's the project management specialist from USAID Regional Development Mission for Asia. Rachen managed the USAID WWF Mekong for the Future program, which supports the civil society organization on natural resource governance advocacy. He also managed the Mekong Basin Partnership Program, which is a direct public international organization grant to the Mekong River Commission to support their basin development strategy and trans-boundary water coordination. He is the alternate contracting officer representative for two energy programs, the USAID Enhancing Equality in Energy for Southeast Asia and the Advanced Energy Partnership for Asia program. Prior to joining USAID, Lachen was the regional project coordinator for GIZ, Water, Energy, Food, Urban Nexus program. Lachen holds an MBA from the Asian Institute of Technology and Master of International Project Management from Schema Business School, Sophia Antipolis Campus, France. So that's Mr. Lachen. Next is Mr. Kelvin Tan. Kelvin Tan is the Managing Director, Head of Sustainability and Government Affairs, ASEAN, SSBC. So in short, because he has a very long CV, so yeah, Kevin leads the SSBC Sustainability and Engagement Strategy across ASEAN, building on his previous role as Head of Sustainable Finance and Investment in the region. He has over 30 years experience in corporate banking across Asia Pacific and oversees sustainable finance initiative, climate solution, digital economy advancement. He also represents SBC in key industry groups, ASEAN Forum, and is involved in many initiatives like IBF, Sustainable Finance Working Group, Pentagreen Capital. He also served as the CEO of HSBC Thailand and held senior position in Singapore. He holds an MBA in accountancy from Nanyang Technological University and BBA from the National University of Singapore. That's Mr. Kevin. Next is Kitty Boo. Kitty Boo is the Vice President Southeast Asia of the Global Alliance for People and Planet, or GEAPP. And Kitty Boo is an impact-driven reader passionate about a catalyzing system transition toward achieving net zero economy at scale. And as Vice President of Asia ex-India at GEAPP, Kitty leads a team of identifying and executing opportunity to catalyze investment in critical solutions to decarbonize the regions. So a lot of extensive experience in private sectors, working at the nexus of business, policy, and finance to enable disruptive technology and business model to thrive. So Kitty also served as the Asia Chief Representative for Impossible Food, a Silicon Valley-based leader in the plant-based meat sector. She earlier launched the China program for the Rocky Mountain Institute, worked in energy transitions, and launched a new renewable energy practice at the European Climate Foundation. And last but not least, Wuti Big Hop, Executive Director of the Center for Sustainable Rural Development, or SRD. Ms. Wu is the Executive Director of the Chair of the Founding Committee and Chair of the Board of Trustees at the Center for Sustainable Rural Development, established in 2006. SRD is a member of Vietnam Union for Science and Technology Association and has been implementing over 80 projects in over 20 provinces of Vietnam over the last 19 years. So Ms. Hop is also the co-chair of the Vietnam Climate Change Working Group since 2008 and bring SRD working experience on grassroots climate change adaptations. So with that, we have quite a heavyweight of panelists that we will be able to hear from their perspective this evening. So without further ado, I would like to start with maybe the first round of questions, and would you kindly answer that in maybe 2 or 3 minutes from your perspective. That would be great. So the first question goes to Lachen. How can development partners support a sustainable energy transition in the region from USAID perspective?
Sure, Kapkun. Virit, thank you for the question. I think we all sitting here, we know that development partners, we can offer two main types of assistance, either financial assistance or technical assistance to to help advance the energy transition and climate change. Um, for example, our program, if some of you have heard, is the USAID Smart Power Program. We have been working in the Southeast Asia region, but this specifically some work that we have done with Thailand and Laos is that we have been able to advance 2.1 gigawatt worth of renewable energy in the region. And the technical assistance that we have provided to Laos, for example, with their Ministry of Energy or Electricity du Lao, they have been working a lot on hydropower. But what was lacking in what we have found that was lacking in that their capacity needed to be built on was an inverter-based projects. Such as solar and wind, for example. So capacity buildings and financial assistance can be, can help to advance energy transition for sure. In partnership with the ADB, for example, we can also, advance more large multi-million dollars project. USAID partner with ADB already. We work with them to organize the Asia Clean Energy Forum, for example. I remember seeing Kitty on one of the panels as well. So and we have discussed before on collaboration with GAP as well. But just one thing that I want to emphasize on is that again, I mentioned at the beginning when I provided the opening remarks that yes, we want to advance the energy transition. Yes, we want to be sustainable, but we have to be inclusive as well. So this is where programs such as Mekong for the Future comes in, where how can we make it more community driven? How can we make it more, and nothing about us without us kind of approach, making sure that the people who are really impacted, where the demand of the energy actually come from, they have a say in the project development. They have a say in how the energy transition will be advanced. So I would like to stop at that. Yeah.
Thank you, Kun Lachen. I think that's a very good point of the development partner. Is the partner for development, so helping us with the technical assistance and also grant to help paving the way and supporting. But I mean, the investment from the development partner wouldn't be enough. So I think that is why maybe we can shift to the private sector. Kevin from SSBC, what can be key factors to have a successful energy transition pathway at country and regional level from your experience, please?
Thank you very much, Kumbirit. And thank you for all of you being here. I said we are the graveyard shift, right? And you guys are still here. I think what's very important is that from a financial point of view, we always say that we are the enablers, right? We don't have the solution, but we are the enablers to make sure that any energy transition actually is done in a smooth and orderly manner. I think one of the few factors that is needed for this, number one, I say this very and I think very clearly, is that it's the policy. I think every country needs to have very clear policies and ambitions. I think, just now when you were making presentations, right, whether it's Myanmar or whether it's Vietnam and all that, I think the policy and the guidelines of the regulatory guidelines is very important, because financial institutions actually do not mind investing in this. In fact, a lot of us have ambitions to actually try and do more in terms of the green financing. But when there's ambiguity in the policy, it makes it very difficult for us to actually mitigate risk. So policy is very important. The second one is actually to have actually a proper framework or taxonomy to let funds flow in. So till now, there are a lot of taxonomies that doesn't actually even define what is transition financing, right? I think the ASEAN taxonomy does look at it. Singapore is looking at it in terms of defining transition policy. And again, if you have a proper taxonomy or standard, guardrails, as to what we can, financial institutions can do and not do, I think that will set a very clear perimeter or the baseline. The third thing that's very important is we need to be a bit creative. You talk about 620 billion, right?
Yes.
Of this, right? And I think there's a lot of liquidity in the market, but the perceived risk, especially in the Mekong River, may be very different, right? So I think there's creativity in terms of financing needs to be involved, and everybody talks about things like blended financing. How can you actually have different capital stacks so that people can shift and mitigate some of the risks? So I'll give you an example. I think yesterday at this COP, we announced that the Singapore government, MAS, announced that they're launching this thing called the Green Investments Partnership, and it's specifically to look at actually trying to see how we can enable. Losing my voice, is it? How we can actually enable blended financing, and come together. So you have actually IFC, NDBs, and all that, putting funds together at different capital stacks, so that we can actually look at the blended financing. The last one I think is very important is that whatever we do, to your point, there must be just transitioning, right? We need to understand that in particular in the Mekong River, we cannot just shut down coal-fired power plants overnight and all that. We need to make sure that it's just and orderly, right? That's very important. In particular, the coal-fired power plants in this part of the world is very young. It's about only 15 years on average, as opposed to the West, which is about 40 years. So we need to find creative ways of doing the just transitioning, whether it's not shutting down, but maybe repowering it, right? And doing things like that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much, Kevin. I think that makes total sense, because if we are looking at it from the business perspective, the business mindset, I think there's an opportunity there. There's a rules and regulation and policy that would pave the way for that. But as the investor, I mean, you are responsible also for the investment, and the investor that invests in the private sector, and how you can have the guardrail, how can you minimize and mitigate risks. I think that's very key. But I think that with that business mindset and green heart, I think we will be able to achieve much more. So next, I would like to move on to our colleague from GEAPP. So Kitty, so the question is, Southeast Asia, especially Mekong region countries, has unique energy needs and face substantial challenges transitioning to renewable energy. Could you share GAPP approach and recent projects or initiative in the region, please?
I gather that you have a slight challenge pronouncing our name, but let me just start from there.
Okay, please. Yeah.
So what we do is in our name. Everything is in our name. It's a global organization.
Yep.
It's focused on energy. It works through an alliance, and we care about the people on the planet. So that's our North Star. But don't worry, we've got people asking me, which app company are you working for? So that's totally fine. It's GAP.
Okay.
So yes, Mekong River Delta is a very important area, given the countries nearby, given the unique situation that it's in. I think generally in Southeast Asia, not just unique to this particular part of the world, we are facing several challenges. Number one is we have surging energy demand and growth. The population starts to grow. The economy is going to continue to grow in a very robust way. We've seen 2 decades of energy growth and GDP growth, and that's still going to continue to grow for the next decade. That's one. Number two is that on the policymakers' mind, even though in ASEAN, 10 out of 11 countries, or 11, all have various different targets and DCs and different net zero roadmaps, but what's in the center of mind is actually just growth and jobs and people, because that means social and economic stability. So just bear that in mind. So the third thing is, I think other colleagues have touched upon in terms of the energy mix. 80% of this part of the world is powered by traditional fossil fuel resources. So with all of this in mind, I think it's important to recognize that energy transition goes beyond a simple calculation of what needs to go out and what needs to be brought in, because it's far more complex than, at the end of the day, a zero-sum game. There are a lot of concerns from communities, a lot of concerns from private sectors sitting on the edge, watching where the financing is being channeled. There are a lot of concerns from government, communities, in this process of what winds down and what winds up. And in that process, not tanking your system, not tanking your export, not tanking your FDI investment. and while maintaining jobs and prosperity. What governments don't want to do is ended up paying for a lot of investments and poor transition targets, losing jobs, technology, and prospect to global north, and ended up with a very expensive economic growth in this particular part of the world. So I would say that to enable energy transition, though, there is a lot of good aspects in this part of the world. We have the right infrastructure. We have capability, capacity sitting in the region. We have technology. And we have local financing available. What we don't have is the right levers to activate all of these factors that could work for this region and enable us from to really reach that transition target, right? Yes, to the blended finance, it's a very unique sort of financial modality that can be utilized. And at a GAMP, we have been a very early practitioner of utilizing blended finance. So we have utilized our philanthropic dollar to disperse that in a market-facing way, in the sense that we have done TA, we have done direct investment in deals, we have been an LP of Southeast Asia's first blended finance clean energy fund, and we have been a co-creator of FAST-P, which is the ambition is a $5 billion blended finance vehicle platform that's focused on coal to clean in the region. But in this multiple layer, GAP has dispersed in this particular part of the region everything from grants, recoverable, returnable grants, to concessional debt, loans, guarantee, and direct investment in equity. So it's a unique sort of challenge that requires unique solutions and trial and error.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful. GAP, and that's the app that we'll be looking for. And I think that is the disruption that we'll be looking forward to by bringing branded finance, investment, and also the social and environmental aspect. So may I move next to SRD? How can CSO can enhance collaboration in energy transition, please?
Yeah, you know that all of you know that the civil society mainly working with the communities, and some of you mentioned earlier saying that how we can engage communities and peoples in the energy transitions, and so that's why the role of civil society is very important. We are like a bridge between the stakeholders. So we are bringing the policies, the program, the projects from the governments to the communities. And also, we also try to connect private sectors with the communities, and we bring the voices from the communities, particularly the very remote communities who may not have energies, who may not have electricities for their consumptions and for even for the light. So that's why we are really working hard with the communities and to understand and to raise their awareness on the what is the renewable energies, what is the difference between the conventional energies and what's the new renewable energies. You know, the poor communities, they care about their food, they care about very basic needs rather than renewable energies. So that's why we have to do the really awareness raisings and also provide better understanding about what is the transitions and just transitions, so that they know they are also a stake in the discussion and policy making process.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for bringing in the perspective of the civil society, because civil society and communities are not only the user, but also receiving a lot of impact, and how you can be engaged, how can be inclusive on all of those investments that will be putting into this. So, I mean, all of you are really experienced in this field, because I mean the first round of question you actually tackle the really key issues, and given that we have quite limited time, so maybe I would shift to this like maybe the final round, that you would be able to share like your final thoughts on this subject, that would be leaving food for thoughts, so that we would be able to continue the conversations, the work that will continue the collaborations after this session ends. So starting with Kun La Chen from USAID, please.
Sure. Thank you, Captain Rivet. I think I would leave with the balance or the marriage between the economic side and also the social side of things, because we all know we want to move to we want to do energy transition. Also, one of the reasons is to advance the environment side of it, but marrying the economic and social side means that both sides need to understand each other. So when we're talking about policy, when we're talking about blended finance, the CSOs might not have an idea what we're talking about. So we have to continue to provide the capacity building needed by the CSOs, but at the same time, they would need to understand the higher goal, as Kitty mentioned just now, in terms of the countries transitioning at a cost. What would they have, the CSO have to understand in those aspects as well. So friendly approach and a balanced approach. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for that powerful ending. Please, Kelvin.
Final thoughts. So I think there's no silver bullet. I think here in COP we always talk about collaboration, right? I mean, it sounds cliche, but really I think in this case it is about collaboration. So I've got a lot of my colleagues from my rival banks. This is one area that we all come together and sit down and crack our heads to say, that's how do we actually solve this, right? And of course, it's not just the financial institutions. It's the philanthropy. It's the NDBs. It's governments and all that all coming together to do that. So I think that's very important. The other thing I think maybe worth mentioning is that throughout this whole just transition journey, we must not forget to not only just focus on the large corporates, we also need to look into the SMEs and how actually we can have the whole ecosystem come together in terms of the transitioning, because that's very important. So that's about building the awareness with them and to support them, because they are also the lifeblood of actually, I would say, more than 95% of the Mekong River's economy, right? So how do you bring them along also in this part of the transition journey? Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, big corporate, SME, how we can work together to actually make this possible. Thank you for that remarks. Please, Kitty.
I think it's recognizing the fact that whether we're ready or not, whether anyone is ready or not, there is a new world coming. The new world is coming faster than we think, and it's not just about weather changing. It's about the entire social system, financial system. It's a big systemic change that's coming at us. And in that process, better be strategic and ready than being taken over.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I really like the three keywords our colleague said earlier, that the low cost, low carbon, and low conflicts. And I think that is a very important key point to bring to the communities. The community, they really care about the low cost and low conflicts. That is really important for them to be interested to support the transitions, and they will be the bringing really their concerns or their even contributions. They can contribute their labor costs and their local knowledge to the transitions. So that is from my point of view. Thanks.
That's really heart of the issues here on how we would be able to bring that together. And I think from the perspective that has been shared by our esteemed panelists, we can see that from the diverse perspective, we all looking at the same direction. We have the goal, the end in mind, and how we all would be able to work together collaboratively, equitably, and sustainably. That we will be able to achieve what we want to achieve. And by doing so, I would like to thank all the panelists for these wonderful sessions. It has been really insightful. I'd like to also thank to all the participants who stay up until the end of the day. And then we still have COP29 that will continue for, about a week more. So I wish everyone a very successful COP participations and looking forward to continue working together. And I end by saying the WWF motto, together possible. Thank you. Yeah. Maybe you have a group photo, yes? Yeah. Then Nung and Hang Dao, please come to join us for a group photo, please. Please, Hang Dao, please.